right. Good morning. Wow, I see a lot of people lit up here already. My feed is full. There's a lot out there. So do us a favor. I love this. Before I even say who we are, what we do, we want to know where you're coming in from. Really important because we want to give you honor. We want to give you a shout out for taking the time to join us this morning. So put that in the chat. We'll see that pop up here. And then also as we go through this, right, we're going to talk to somebody that landed at TEDx, Dr. Jim here, right? We're going to talk through this. He's going to share his entire journey. So ask some questions, have you done a TEDx? Maybe what some of your topics are. Bobby and I will go back and forth on that, but I'm really excited here. Right now, all of you out there have an opportunity to get your message out to the world, and TEDx is the way to do that. And we're going to talk about this, building your brand, building your thought leadership. There's so much we could talk about here, but we're going to try to keep this in 30 minutes. But if you don't know me, I'm Chris Colt, the challenge champion. And really what I do is I help my clients make an impact in this world by getting their message out faster. Bobby Umar is one of my clients, and what Bobby does, and I'll let him talk about this, but he helps land on a TEDx stage. And you want to talk about amplifying your impact from there? This is a perfect match here. And then Dr. Jim here recently just landed a TEDx and completed it. So we want to really highlight him and give you time to ask him questions. But here's the really neat thing. This all started with an idea in Jim's head and simply him paying $100 to join a 5-day challenge. And I'm going to let him tell that story from there. So, Bobby, why don't you introduce yourself, and then why don't you introduce Dr. Jim? I'll be here to support you guys, but I know you're going to be doing most of the talking today.
Sure. Hey, everybody. My name is Bobby Umar. I'm a motivational speaker by trade. For the last 20 years, I've done 1,000 keynotes and workshops across 4 continents, mostly on the areas initially of leadership, soft skill leadership, then networking. So I wrote a book, then personal branding. So I delivered a course. Then I started talking about professional speaking and paid speaking. Then the pandemic hit. I switched to coaching, started talking about storytelling, digital thought leadership. And then I decided to run a program on TEDx Talks because I'd done 5 TEDx Talks, and I'd also declined 3 other TEDx invitations. And pretty soon my curriculum started working, and everyone started following my curriculum and started landing TEDx Talks. So now I use TEDx Talks as a vehicle to help you elevate your personal brand, build your thought leadership, and really integrate TEDx as one of the prime strategies of your business, your thought leadership, and your career. And so getting the voice out there, getting the stories out there, this is what I do. We run the 5-day challenge, which is what that QR code is for every couple of months. We also run a TEDx Mastery Program where I guarantee success to folks. And Jim is one of the people that joined the program. And Jim, I'd love for you to just start with a quick introduction and then maybe talk about maybe how you first found about the challenge, I guess, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, why don't I give you a little bit about my background, because that kind of gets me there. So I'm a recovering academic, spent 30 years in higher ed. I was an English professor. I became a dean. I became a vice president at a couple universities, left higher ed around the time the pandemic started, thank God, and decided to go out on my own. And I work in the field of leadership. So I work with aspiring leaders, young leaders, mostly millennials, but even people beyond that, we'll say. And I help them become the best leader they can be. So I was looking for a place to put my ideas out there. I already have a blog and podcast. I have a brand new book that just came out, Greater Than Great. And I wanted someplace else. I've always been a speaker. I've been on stages many, many, many times, and thought, why not a TEDx stage? Kind of in the back of my mind. I don't know. Maybe I was attracted to red dots. I have no idea, but just something about TEDx or something special about it. And then one day I was I was part of a mastermind group, and one of my fellow members sent out an email to the rest of us saying, hey, there's this 5-day challenge thing. You might want to sign up for it. It was literally that day. So it was starting on a Monday. It was like 9 o'clock in the morning, I think starting at noon. And I looked at it and I said, I'm going to plunk down $100 and spend 5 days with Bobby and Chris and figure out some of this stuff. And frankly, what I got blew me away. I was now, not only did I have a better sense of how to land a TEDx, but I was also more interested in doing so. I sort of saw why I was attracted to it, because there is just something very special about the whole TED structure, the way they run things, the professionalism, the consistency, the quality. So that all came really through with Bobby's program during those 5 days. So I signed up for the whole thing, and joined his mastery program and worked with Bobby for, I don't know, how many months was it, Bobby? I don't even remember.
6 months.
6 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a long time. And, one of the great things about working with Bobby is he's just there for you, right? You need him. He's there. In fact, I'm guilty. I don't avail myself enough of that. He's just there working with you. You're his priority. He drops things to help you out when you have questions, when you have concerns. So that's basically how I got into it. And very happy to answer any other questions.
Yeah, well, so let me kind of get into, let's go back to the beginning. So the person who sent the email, hey, that's great. Thanks so much for that. Appreciate it. So, I mean, initially, like from the, you get the email and you see the program. So we do the 5-day challenge every 2 months. And so there's a QR code and someone's going to go there and they're going to say, why should I join? So, I mean, tell me what was the hook for you in terms of, you know what? Yeah, this is a no brainer. I should just plunk down $100 and just do this. What got your attention?
Wild recklessness. No, I decided that I'd been thinking about it. It'd been on my mind. In fact, part of that mastermind was we did a live event where a bunch of us gave talks, and I'd given a talk, and I hadn't given a long form memorized talk in a long time, partially because of COVID, partially because I left academia. And, I'm standing up there and I'm realizing, man, I love this. I'm good at this. I can do this. So I just started getting interested again and getting back on the stage. So it was just a lot of factors just sort of converged at the same time. I was thinking about it. All of a sudden this thing was in front of me. And, frankly, $100 isn't a lot. I've spent more on dinner, unfortunately, and not very good dinners. So, it's totally worth the money. And you get so much in those 5 days, as it turns out, but it just looked good. And I decided to everything you pay for, you don't know what it is. You're taking a chance, but it was worth it. It was totally worth it. It's worth $100 for sure.
And I can tell you guys that, look, the reason, first, I mean, maybe Chris, you can talk about the fact, tell us like when I used to do 5-day challenges. So Chris is the 5-day challenge guy. And the reason why I do 5-day challenges, I would do a lot of them, and some of them for free. And I see Toby and Kathy. Hey, hello, Kathy. Good to see you guys. But Chris made me say, no, you have to make people pay a little bit, like just a little bit. And even though they're getting you for 5 days, 1 hour each day plus replays, it's a lot of my time. But Chris, maybe talk a bit about why the 5-day challenge works and why it should be like, why you do like $100 thing and then why it works so well.
I mean, the big thing, if you don't really understand the difference between, you probably heard the term challenge and people are like, what the heck's a challenge? Sometimes you see them in 3-day formats, 5-day. I personally find 5-day just goes a different flow, but it's about transformation. Jim will share more of his story. You start somewhere and you end somewhere. So we give you a framework to get things in place, and we give you things to do each day. But the most important thing that I notice, and maybe Jim, if you remember, talk about this a little bit, is the community that develops. You get around other people who are on this. I'm a cyclist, right? So Tour de France going on. So you're going to get some cycling analogies, right? This peloton that pedals together. You create this peloton, and people want to stay in it and move forward. So it gives you accountability. It gives you this feeling of like, well, I'm part of something. And it's exciting. And we make it fun. We gamify this whole thing. So we make sure you want to show up and have a lot of fun. But why do you pay for it? It's simple. People pay attention to what they pay for. I see we have almost 70 people on this between all platforms. Let's be honest. How many of you will sign up for anything that's free? I know I will. Do I show up? Highly unlikely, because if something comes up in my business, my family, guess what? That's more important to me. But like Jim said, $100, it does make some people think, but if I spend $100 on something, I'm showing up and playing full out. And Jim started that process. Here's a pure example, and we have multiple others. He landed on a TEDx. Way I look at it, Jim, you put a little skin in the game for $100. You played full out. You signed up last minute, right? So you were serious. You're like, hey, let's do this. And look where it led you. So that's really why I love doing the challenges. And they're fun, Bobby. For you, you get your message out faster. You get to impact lives like Jim here. And then Jim gets to go tell his story on a stage. we don't even know where that goes from there. That's just mind-boggling from a simple 5 days he started spending with us.
And let's talk briefly about the 5-day challenge. So, like, you're going. I know it was a while ago, Jim. So you're going through this challenge, and I mean, day 1, day 2. Is there a point where, like, okay, you know what, like, what was there something in particular, or something that surprised you, or something that you thought, oh, that's really interesting, I didn't know that, or this, I'm glad I took this thing. So tell me a bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right. It is going back. It's over a year.
Yeah.
And you and I worked together quite a bit, so it's all sort of mushed together. But yeah, I mean, part of it was, and I'm going to put this. I'm a very blunt guy. I'm not going to beat around the bush. Getting a TEDx is really daunting. It's not easy to get a TEDx. Someone might fall butt backwards into one. Maybe they know somebody and get it. But that I wouldn't count on that, right? I mean, you have to work at getting a TEDx. You have to know what you're doing. And one of the things I found, and one of the reasons I signed up for your Fuller program, was because I realized I had no idea where to go. There was so much. Like, you gave me a really good leaping off point, and I could have gone from there. But I also realized that it would take me doing all kinds of research beyond the 5-day challenge to figure things out. And even with your program, the Fuller program, there still is a lot to do. There are how many thousands of TEDx's every few years? You count them, and you put together a comprehensive list of them, which is incredibly useful. But when you look at them, they're all over the world. Some of them are in really big venues. Some of them are really small. Some of them are for kids. Some of them are specific universities. They all vary. And just trying to cope with all that, just trying to understand the scope of all that, is really, really difficult. So what I realized during those 5 days was that A, I really wanted to do this. B, it was a lot. It was, and I didn't know I had the commitment internally to do it. So I signed up for your mastery program in order to make sure I was more accountable. Other people might be further along in the process. They might do the 5-day challenge, and they're like, okay, now I got enough. I mean, the 5-day challenge, I guess, gives you enough to land a TEDx. It does.
Yes.
But you're on your own a lot.
Yeah.
After that, right?
I mean,
you don't get the Bob Umar experience.
Yeah. The general idea is that the 5-day challenge is to show you why TEDx matters, to workshop you through the process. I show you all my models, all my methodologies. I show you how my guarantee process works. And I basically say, here's a step-by-step process. Now off you go. And so, by the end of the 5 days, everyone you have the roadmap that I would use. But what I can tell you is that 2 people have taken the 5-day challenge and gone off and did the work and landed TEDx talk. But most people need focus, accountability, coaching, support. And so that's kind of where we say, look, why don't you go call me, check out my TEDx mastery program, and we can do that too. But I think that it's a good platform to understand exactly what's involved, what the benefit is, how we can integrate it into your business and brand and career in the best way possible. Because everybody who does that. Everybody wants to do a TEDx talk, either wants to give back to the world the message that's important to them. They want to build their business. They want to build their brand. They want to get clients. They want to do more speaking. They want to go to media. They have all these different, they want to build their personal brand. They all have these different things they want to do. So every single person is different. But at the end of the day, TEDx is kind of the flagship to integrate in what you're trying to do. And so at the end of the 5 days, we say, look, here you go. And some people, they upgrade to the VIP, which again, if you look at the challenge, you can read what it is. But the VIP challenge, there's a few things. Number one, you get a 1-hour consult with me afterwards to give you the direction and push you need. Number 2, you get a list of my TEDx events from around the world. There's about 2,600 of them, including location, date, and time. It's now a database of the past 3 years of TEDx events, so you get access to that. And I'm adding a third new thing in the VIP. It's $300 extra, but what you get now is I put together a TEDx AI robot. And basically what this is it's Bobby's AI robot. You can ask him any question about the process, what I should do, all that kind of stuff, and it will answer exactly the way Bobby did. So that's something that you get access to even beyond the 5 days are over, and that's something I think people will find really, really helpful. So, that's what you get in the 5 days, and then after that, and so I encourage you guys to check out the link and see what it's all about, because I do think that the 5-day challenge is a great way to immerse yourself in the process. And then we can transition over to talk a bit more about the rest of the journey. But Chris, is there anything else you want to add about the 5-day challenge before we talk a bit more about what happened after?
I think, like I said, that whole thing with the community and accountability, Jim said, you get a framework that, quite frankly, yes, you can implement after and go to land on a TEDx. But here's the reality. How many will not do it without accountability? When you're in that community, you feel it. You don't want to lose it. And we've had people share stories in this challenge that are just you're like, hey, I got to get on stage. You have to get on stage because your story needs to be heard. I mean, people deal with this mindset, right? That's one of the biggest things. Am I worthy? Will people listen to this? All these different things. We work through that with you. And I'll tell you, you're worthy. You have a story that you got to get out to this world. And, when you're in this challenge format, it allows you to really just integrate with others and get that feeling to really move forward in things. And it's fun. I mean, we make this a lot. I feel we make it fun. Maybe I'm a little selfish on that, but everybody I know that's gone through this, I mean, Bobby has so many video testimonials of how good this challenge is designed. And it's because we tweaked a lot of things we were doing in the past and we learned. And we do this every couple of months and it's coming up in a couple of weeks. That's why we're doing this live. So you guys can actually hear a success story right now.
Yeah. So now, we do the 5-day challenge. Then Jim booked a call with us and decided to do the TEDx Mastery. And that one it has all the support, all the resources, the coaching, accountability, because the truth is that's a big part of the challenge. So now you're working on landing a TEDx talk. Jim, what are some of the things you learned along the way in terms of how to do this and a little bit more about, what I try to do to try to help you get to where you need to go?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I learned was that all these TEDx's, while they're similar in the outcome, they're different in the input, right? Like how you apply, what you do. One of the things you did, Bobby, was you got the people in your program to write templates, right? That we could reuse and reuse. I didn't follow your formula exactly. I did my own version of that because I tend to do that, but because I guess I'm a jerk that way. But but I understand what you're doing, and I took the concept, right, where I had I could do applications. I could do multiple applications for TEDx's using the same information. Also, I mean, the thing we really started with was that personal, and you can, with Bobby, you can get into a personal branding exercise. I didn't fully do that, but you definitely do personal stories. And you had us write out in bullet point form our lives. Yeah. And mine was 38 pages. I really got into it. It just kept going. And then you helped me tease out stories from there, which is something I already do, by the way. That's what I do in my blog and podcast every week. I tease out stories from my life mostly and work up leadership principles from that. So I was used to that process, but I was doing it in a very different way, a much more systematic way than I do it on the week-to-week basis. And it was something you said during, in your commentary on some of my stories that actually inspired a blog post and podcast I used. And then that inspired the talk I gave. So there was a direct line. It probably doesn't always work that directly, but because you weren't even teasing out a story. It was actually a comment you made about the type of person I am. Yeah. And that inspired something in me. So that was a big part of it, but also just, helping us get through, looking at different sites, how to locate a TEDx, how to apply to a TEDx, what to expect, what not to expect, how to be persistent, how to tease out, putting stuff on social media saying, okay, I'm working on TEDx now. These are the 3 topics I have. Which one do you think I should do? Doing little surveys. I use LinkedIn, doing all sorts of things on social media to create a buzz. That was all your thinking, your ideas. That stuff I'm 6 years old. I don't think of that stuff too well. I have to be forced. So so that was really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think that, so let's talk about the first piece is the foundation of my methodology is the life story model. We go through the life story model. What you find is when you do all of your life stories and you bullet point all your stories. Now, Jim had one of the longer ones. Some people have like ones for 2 pages. Other people have 20, 30 page ones. But the truth is, the point is, when you have these stories, you're going to be able to find lots of TEDx ideas. You can also find lots of stories that can be just part of your speeches, your media appearances. It could be part of your content strategy. It can be part of your personal brand journey. And that's why it's such a really great tool to use. I think that's really important. And then the other thing I want to mention is like, look, my process is, there's dozens of steps and things you got to consider, but there's 3 key things you got to do. Number 1, what is your story, idea, topic, and title? Where are the TEDx events, and how do you build relationships and build a list of the TEDx events that you want to pitch to? And number 3, having an application template that's optimized so that your TEDx application will be kick-ass, so that you'll get noticed. That's the 3 things you need to have in order to really land the TEDx talk, and that's kind of what we focus on honing with everybody. But the other part that you mentioned is, there's land the TEDx talk, but you also want to design a really good TEDx talk, and then you also want to leverage that TEDx talk, right? And that's important too, because you can't just do a talk, because you could do a talk or launch a book, but if you don't promote it and take people along the way in the journey, it's less likely to amplify. Because one of the reasons why TEDx is so great is because it amplifies really, really well when it does launch, and you tell people, and it's really, really exciting. So now you're going through this TEDx talk, you're trying to land a TEDx talk. So can you talk a bit about some of the challenges you found in doing so and how you overcame them?
In landing the talk?
Yeah.
I mean, number 1, just the sheer number. Where do you start? At that time, I was living in the Hudson Valley, New York State. That was a relatively rich area. You could draw a circle, right, around where I lived, and drive 3 hours, and there were dozens of TEDx possibilities. So I decided to focus geographically. Other people travel far and wide. I ended up giving a TEDx an hour from where I was living at the time, which was pretty remarkable. But we had people fly in from Jamaica, from England, so people were giving talks coming from all over the place. So that was one thing. How do you just, you don't want to just scattershot send out a bunch of applications. You have to be able to get to the place. Not all of them are in locations that are easily accessible. So you need to think about that. You need to think about where are these, is this TEDx even still functioning? Some TEDx, they'll do them for year after year after year, and then they'll just stop. And they don't like send out a notice, we stopped, right? Yeah. So you have to figure out what's going on. Like their website doesn't work. There's no Facebook page, or the Facebook page is outdated. So there's a lot of detective work involved in that. Having your list was immensely helpful because I could just go through and systematize that, right? I focused on 3 hours from where I lived. I could drive there. I focused on, so that limited the number. Then I started focusing on who, was still clearly operable, who was still functioning, who was still accepting applications. And then it can be a little hard to find their websites if they have a website. A lot of them just use social media like Facebook. They might have a Google form page for the application, but the link is in Facebook, that sort of a thing. So you have to tease that out. And also, Bobby, you were great at insisting that we communicate with the organizers as best as possible. Now, that can be a little daunting too, because some of them are very good communicators, which is ironic given they're doing TEDx. But reaching out to people, sometimes you get their email. Sometimes you can find that in the TED site, very rarely. Sometimes you have to find them on social media. I located a couple of people on Facebook, on LinkedIn, reached out to them, got some feedback, got some ideas, what's going on. And that's where you get the straight information, right? You're not doing the detective work. Someone's just telling you, we're not doing it this year, or we're doing it, but we've already accepted all the applications, that sort of a thing. And then, trying to just trying to navigate all that. The more I think about it, it's like, how did I even get through this? But having that system, being able to create a system based on your materials and being able to communicate with these people is the only way through. And that worked really, really well. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't worked that part of the system.
So again, Chris, you want to say something? No, okay. So now we have to land the TEDx talk. And again, we're talking about how to land a TEDx talk, and we're talking about the 5-day challenge, which starts at the end of July. So you can check that out and click the QR code here and learn more about it. 5-day challenge is one of the things we do every 2 months. Then I also have the TEDx Mastery Program, which is my 6-month program. Actually, we have a 90-day accelerator now. I've been involved in that program over the years, and now coming up with different ways to make it even better. That's the big thing that I'm all about. But tell us a bit about the moment you got the TEDx talk and how it felt.
Yeah. So, I mean, most of them, it seems, correct me if I'm wrong, you apply, you put an application, the ones I've applied for, you put in an application, you say, here's what I'm thinking about doing. If you can, you try to put in a video, you put social media links, and answer whatever questions they have. And they can vary pretty wildly, but having some sort of form, some sort of template to work with works pretty well. Mine was a little different. I reached out to this person who was the organizer on LinkedIn, and she said, we want you to do a 1-minute video, but not about any particular topic. We just want you to answer these questions.
Right.
Okay. So at this point, we haven't talked topic, right?
Right.
Which is weird, right? And I thought, okay. And so I answered the questions, and then she said, okay, now I want to have a conversation with you. So we had I think it was, I guess it was Zoom. I don't remember. We had a conversation, and she said, okay, you're in. She said, what we're looking for are people who are coachable, who actually have the chops to do this.
Right. Wow.
That was their approach. So they weren't looking for you to come in with an idea. They were looking for you to come in with certain chops, whatever that was. And then she hooked me up with this guy who was like a coach for developing ideas, but I didn't really know what he was doing. He's in Johannesburg, and I get on a Zoom with him, and he says, so what ideas you have? And I said, I don't know. I wasn't told to prepare anything for this. So I pitched him a couple ideas off the top of my head. He liked one of them. And I said, okay. And I wrote some stuff up. I went back to him.
And we've been working on ideas, though, during this time.
We had been, right. And so I took one of those ideas. I had these in my head. Right. Thank you. That's important, right? It wasn't like I was just riffing. Like I was what about this? What about that?
I mean, to Jim's credit, his 38-page, life story journey. Not only do we extract dozens of TEDx ideas, with most people, I focus on getting 3 TEDx ideas. But with Jim, like there was literally 5 or 6 that I thought were amazing ideas. So he was in a really good spot because so many different options.
Yeah, I mean, I could just rattle them off. And like I said, I got it like 2 out, and then he was like, oh, that one. So. Okay. I mean, this seemed pretty random to me, but whatever. So then the next time we met, he had some suggestions, and then they told me, okay, if I wanted to continue with him, I'd have to pay him $250 an hour.
Oh.
And I said, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. I got this. And so, but the good thing that this group did was we met every week. So several of us, and there were 3 of us, maybe 4, who were very, very consistent about trying to be in those meetings, and we helped each other out. And I was an English professor, so I was pretty good at sort of teasing people's ideas out and helping them along and saying, that metaphor you use there, that's your talk. Forget everything else. That's your talk. And so, so that was really, and they gave me ideas, gave me suggestions as we went along to help tighten up what I did. So it was a different process than most. I think more often it's you pitch an idea, and then the idea is what you're leading with, and it's a matter of polishing that. Here we were pitching ourselves and then the idea.
So what about, the last thing I want to talk about is, now you've got the TEDx talk, you're putting it together. So talk about delivering the talk, the day of, what it was all about, how it felt, what you learned. Tell us about that.
I mean, we were at a community college, Rockland County Community College in New York. It was incredible. It's a little chaotic, right? It's a staging. I used to work in theater, so I used to be a theater carpenter, so I know how chaotic it could be. Everybody's running around. They got the big letters. They're made out of styrofoam, by the way. They got the letters out there, TEDx Clarkstown. And it's just so cool to see. So I had my wife taking pictures of me like on the stage before the letters were assembled, because I thought that was kind of cool. I took a picture of the letters scrambled on the stage and was putting that on social media all day. And I talked second. I was supposed to talk later in the day, but somebody didn't show up, which happens. And so I got bumped to second. And it was just an incredible feeling. You're mic'd up. It's very professional. You're dressed professionally. The people are enthusiastic. You're, everything's laid out. You stay on the circle. Your slides are going. It just feels real. It feels real. It feels so powerful, and people just love it. People just go nuts. And they really, really encouraging you. It was just a wonderful feeling. And then one of the speakers for my program was Les Brown, who's a pretty well-known speaker.
Wow.
So that was cool too. So he was there, and we had
Well, you
met him
met him?
before on Zoom. Oh yeah. We had met
That's
him on
awesome.
Zoom. Yeah. No, he was very cool. In fact, we were in the green room together, and he was working with one of his assistants, trying to develop a title for his talk and work on some slides before he gave the talk. So he wasn't really too talkative with everybody else. He was really focused. But this guy's like 80. You would never guess it in a million years that he's at. You never. He's incredibly vibrant, smart, looks great, very, very professional. Really nice guy.
Awesome. Well, listen, Chris, any other questions you want Jim or I to discuss?
No, I mean, you guys hit so much here. I mean, that was cool. I didn't know Les was at your event. That's pretty cool right there. But no, we've had different people coming throughout here, so we'll give out some shout outs. We got, and I'll say that name wrong, Bobby. So if you want to give a shout out there.
Hey, Krupa. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. I mean, look, we're just talking TEDx, and we're talking about how to land TEDx talk. We're talking about why TEDx matters. We're talking about the prep, the journey. But I can tell you that, look, TEDx is one of the best ways to amplify your brand. The pitch I always tell people is like, look, TEDx has the shortest amount of time invested and the shortest timeline with the greatest amplification. Right now, the timeline is 3 to 6 months, maybe 9 months on average, but the amplification is fantastic. And once you have that as your brand, you can use it for a lot of things, right? And once you have the video, you can use that for a lot of things. I can tell you personally that when I got my first of my 5 TEDx talks, my speaker fee increased 2.5 times. The number of speaker gigs I had was 40% more that year, and I started traveling around the world. So to me, TEDx is just a great tool. But, and again, there's other tools, content strategy, networking, book, programs, all that kind of stuff. But in my mind, TEDx is the best thing because it encompasses speaking, storytelling, and relationship building all at the same time. And that's why it's so good. So I hope you guys will consider checking out the challenge. Jim did the full circle. He did the challenge, did the 5 days. He worked hard. And then we had gotten a couple of calls. He joined my TEDx Master program, went through the guaranteed process, got his TEDx, landed, and then delivered it. And now it's just a question of leveraging it and letting people know here's what he's doing. And I think he's going for a second one. He wants to do more than one. He wants to be a 2-time, 3-time TEDx speaker, which is fine because I'm a 5-time TEDx speaker. And I can tell you, 1-time TEDx speaker is great. 5-time TEDx speaker is even better. Because what it does is it positions you as an authority, an expert, a thought leader, someone who knows what they're talking about. And if you do more, and if you get more than one, now that okay, this person clearly is a good presenter and a good speaker. That's why they're back a second or third time. So, I think Jim has all the tools he needs to get to that second and third one as well. All right, Chris. So I think we're at I want to make sure we manage our time. You said half an hour, so
we're right on.
The questions, put them in the chat. But reach out to myself, reach out to Chris. Check out the QR code. Chris, how do you want to close this baby?
No, I'm just excited you all came here. Thank you for joining. I mean, we had a great audience. Saw some of you downloaded the thing. So just hit up by Bobby there. That little QR code, that'll get you to register. We'll be live in 2 weeks. 2 weeks at 11 o'clock Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Eastern we start. So 5 days in a row. If you do happen to miss a day, it's recorded. But I'll tell you, Jim will probably tell you the same thing. You want to come back every day live. But we know sometimes 5 days in a row at the same time, can't pull it off. You get the recording, you get access to everything that you get out there. And then I encourage you to upgrade to VIP to spend some time with Bobby and get the AI chatbot that he talked about and then the one-on-one time with him. That's priceless there. But Jim, I'll let you actually close this out because this was all about you. That's why we got you in the center of us. But, we appreciate you taking the time, but I also appreciate you following through and executing and getting it done because that says a lot about you right there, Jim. I hope you know that. So I'm going to let you close this out here and then stay with us when you say you're done. I'll stop this and we'll chit chat for a little bit on the back end.
All right. Yeah. I encourage people to do the 5-day challenge, get a sense of what this is. If you're interested in doing a TEDx, it's totally worth it. And please do check out my talk. It's called Swizzle, the Way of the Change Agent.
Yes.
And so it is, it's fun and people seem to like it. So I guess it's good. But yeah, check it out and see what you think. And by the way, I should say this. I forgot to mention this. On May 20th, my book came out. On May 23rd, I gave my TEDx. And on May 27th, I moved from New York to Delaware. Don't do that. That's hard.
But I think that a book and a TED Talk are a great 1-2 punch. If people say which one first, which one later, you know what? Just get them both done. Get them out there. It's great.
Yeah. It just coincidentally came out the same week. So.
All right, all. We're going to sign off here. Jim, thank you for your time. Stay on with us. We'll chat for a couple minutes, but we appreciate you all that joined. Looking forward to seeing those of you in the challenge that are going to be in it. Have any questions? Hit Bobby or I up in the DMs, and we'll make sure you get all you need. But hit that QR code with Bobby, and that'll take you to the landing page. All right, all. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.